You are listening to All Burgundy and Go Everything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene at Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. Ray and Wole, we are your hosts. Mo and Glen are out, and we are joined by Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Washington Commanders reporter. Still can't get over that name. Donna Hopkins, welcome back to the show. Donna, what's going on?
You know what? I've been waiting to get back with you all because it's a whole bunch of things that's happening. But you know what? I'm okay with the Washington Commanders name. It
okay
rolls off my tongue easy.
You like the? Do you like the whole like the new like the new song?
Absolutely
like it?
nada. Let me tell you about the song. At the first preseason game, they were playing after Washington had scored. And the cheerleaders, it was so slow and dragging that the cheerleaders almost had to hesitate for a whole minute or so before you go into the next move. It's almost like you were holding your leg up in space, and then you had to wait a minute before you kicked it into the other one. So that song is so slow to put you to sleep. They need to revamp that. And to me, with that song, instead of trying to work with old tune and everything, and you're changing the name and all of that and trying to get a new image, why not just revamp the song altogether? I mean, throw it out and start from scratch. You've got so many different people, artists here in the DC area that could put together you a song as far as upbeat. We're known for go-go in the DMV. So what they're trying to do is work with an old tune or old song and put a few new words and whatever. It's never going to work. To me, let's just scrap it all and just start from scratch.
Donna does not like the remix. And Wole, you said it's gonna be a quick show. Nobody ever heard Donna give a quick answer. Like, it's always thorough. So we gonna get real today. But it's cheerleaders again.
The go-go joke was like, I like that. Actually, I'm gonna lie.
That's what I was gonna say. She stole my answer. But we got cheerleaders again at FedEx Field. Is that what we're doing? I thought they were pulling together like a entertainment team to try to rebrand the whole thing.
Well, that's what it is. It's an entertainment team. It's not so much cheerleaders, but It's still, you got your guys out there from last year. They said that they were going to improve from last year, tweak it some. So they got the guys out there doing different things, but I really don't know where they're going with that, because I think that even that could be a little better than what we're seeing. I don't think that they're solid when you're talking about some of the top dancers in sports teams, whether it's basketball. I think about the Lakers, they're one of the cream of the crops. But I mean, I guess they're dancers, but if you're talking about entertainment, you've got to put together a solid product. And I don't think that they're there yet.
All right. Well, Jason Wright, take notice. Anyway, while you're taking notice, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Everything. That's with 3 R's. Also, tweet us at ABG_Everything and hit us up on IG at ABG_Everything, and like our All Burgundy and Gold Everything Facebook page. And also make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Also, Donna, you can plug your YouTube channel now. It's getting amazing views with the content you're putting out there. Let the people know where they can find those interviews at, Donna.
Yeah, Tony McGee and myself started a podcast, which is a spinoff of the Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. And the podcast is called In the Minute. And everything is in a minute that we're talking about. We're hitting it and moving on. But it's been fun, starting that with Tony. I mean, of course, Tony still doesn't know what he's talking about. I still have to school him, but, that's just part of the fun. So we're going to have a lot of great people on the podcast. And as I said, it's a spinoff. So go to In a Minute and catch out some of the interviews that I had since training camp began. Some good stuff out there.
But Don, isn't that an everyday thing with you and Tony? Like, you always got to school him to the game?
Him and Gary, I mean, Gary doesn't, I got to come and educate him about what's going on with the team. Hollywood, Gary Clark, and then Tony comes trying to talk about his defensive line and what they're going to look like, and they're the greatest thing of holding this team together. And I told him, I said, I'm not trying to hear that. that answer should be in a minute.
Anyway, man, it's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. We'll preview Saturday's preseason game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which is going down this Saturday. All right, Donna, Washington lost to the Carolina Panthers last Saturday, excuse me. Have you seen anything interesting in practice this week?
Yeah, I think that they're, the running game, they're looking at, Brian Robinson had a solid first game out of the blocks. We saw how much of a runner that he's going to be able to help. And when he just exploded, when he got the ball, you could just see him looking like a true running back, can catch the ball out of the backfield the first time in a long time that they've had a big back. So I think that they're just trying to fine tune, as far as Coach Rivera said earlier during the week, that to get the passing game going a little bit more as far as downfield. So I think that possibly you'll see a little bit more of that. And when you look at this preseason, it's so important because forever people wanted less preseason games. They've got that. And so you got 3 games to kind of figure out who's going to be on this team and so forth. So it's going to be interesting as far as this Kansas City game of how much the starters are going to play. Me personally, I think they need to play a lot more because the offense to me is not crisp yet. I mean, Carson Wentz is still trying to get comfortable with his receivers and be on the same page, and it's not there yet. The offensive line was missing 2 offensive linemen starters. And so hopefully, Coach Rivera said, I asked him on Monday, what did he think about the offensive line in that first game against Carolina? And he felt that they played pretty good, that they're right where they need to be, even though they were missing those 2 starters, but he likes what he sees there.
Yeah, I thought so. I liked the offensive line. I was highly impressed with the offensive line, to be honest with you. So you're looking at a guy who fumbled in the game, fumbled against the Panthers and running back Antonio Gibson. Did his role change in practice?
Yeah, they were working with him more on special teams, and it's almost, I don't know if you could say it's the demoting him, but I think it's finding where he fits more so, because let's just talk about this. You know that the roster is going to be a certain amount of players, and we know every year that some big name players are cut. And I'm not saying that Antonio Gibson is going to be one of those players because they are loaded in the backfield. Patterson, J.D. McKissick, they've got Gibson, they've got Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, that's loaded. That's the first time that they've had, that kind of firepower, although to me, they don't run the ball enough. But Antonio Gibson, I think that they're trying to find other ways that they can use him, because it's so many touches that each person is going to get in a ball game. And I know that they like what they see in Brian Robinson. So to me, Antonio Gibson, the heat is on right there, because this is a crucial year for all the coaches. A 3rd year for Ron Rivera, as far as Scott Turner, as far as Del Rio. I mean, they're in the hot seat too.
I like Jonathan Williams, running back. I liked him. I liked a lot what he was doing. I think when you're looking at the running back room with who, you can feel like you can trust somebody with the football. You're looking at, you mentioned Robinson, the rookie out of Alabama, obviously J.D. McKissick, and then you're looking at Jonathan Williams. I feel like those are 3 dudes that kind of showed out to me in that preseason game. And, you have this consistent problem with Antonio Gibson in terms of fumbling the football as a primary running back. That's an issue. You can't trust somebody with the football, run the football between these tackles. That, in terms of losing the ball and losing the possession, that's a serious problem. And that's something that has to be addressed. I know this, and just my experience of watching football, the great coaches in the NFL, when you're running back, when you can't trust your running back in terms of holding the football, they're typically not the premier running back. One way or the other. I don't care how explosive you are. And I even can go back and here in this town, and I said this on our post-game show, that I remember like Reggie Brooks. I thought Reggie Brooks was an explosive back, but Reggie Brooks kept fumbling the football, and that led him out of town. So here,
they put it on the carpet.
Yeah, once you keep doing that, Like you can't trust that. You can't trust that dude. So, and I don't want to blame. And this is wild because I'm, folks are gonna listen to this and think I'm bashing him. So I'm gonna put this out there. Like I don't really blame him. You're looking at a wide receiver that you transitioned to be a running back, and you didn't even utilize him to his wide receiver skill. Like you just rushed him into being a back. Like you rushed him to being a running back. So I don't really blame him. And then you had guys that could have taught him in Adrian Peterson, and you decided to cut him and just put this all on him. So you pretty much rushed him into the fray and say, you know what, you're our running back. So you rushed a wide receiver to be your running back without even giving him the tools to be the running back. Like you didn't give him that veteran leader to lean on. Coaching, okay, whatever. You can say any which way about coaching, but you didn't give him or didn't put him in a position to be successful in terms of the skill sets that he had. Like you didn't use him in the passing game often, right? You didn't put him in space often. There's so much you didn't do for him as an individual to get his confidence up as a playmaker, not just a running back, but as a playmaker. So I don't like blaming him, but at the end of the day, when we're talking about being the number one running back, the fumbling problem is an issue. And I feel like if you can't change that narrative, then it's already set. And I'm a firm believer, or you are who you are. Like,
they said you better sleep with that ball. When you started fumbling, you better
Donna,
walk
it get
around
to a point when everybody ain't Tiki Barber. Like that's all. Like everybody ain't Tiki. You ain't gonna change it. You ain't gonna change it often. Like
but
everybody.
I think that you hit it on the head. You're trying to turn a wide receiver into a running back, and it takes time. Yeah. And you can tell the difference between Brian Robinson Jr., who was a true running back from Alabama. You can just see his skill set. You can see how he sees the holes and just explodes through it. So nothing against Antonio Gibson because he's only in his third year or so. And so he's still trying to grasp a hold of that position. Now, where I thought he would be stronger is what you said, is coming out the backfield and using him as more of a receivers. And speaking of receivers, we haven't even touched on them. I think that's when you look at Curtis Samuels, this is a guy that the Washington is bringing along slowly because they don't want to have him injured. He had hamstring problems in the previous years and only played, I think, 5 games last season. But this is a guy that has shined in training camp, has had a solid training camp. And you saw some flashes of what you want to see from him this season in that first preseason game against Carolina. So I think that in the Kansas City game moving forward, they're going to try to stretch the field a little bit more and open, and they're not going to show us a whole bunch as far as what they're going to do for the regular season games. But I think that they're trying to work that passing game as far as downfield a little bit more in that Kansas City game. And we haven't even mentioned De'Ami Brown. This is another guy that's had a solid training camp also. When you look at the wide receiver group across the board, I mean, you got to be saying, Carson Wentz, it is no reason why you don't have the tools, in the passing game for this team to be good there. Because when you talk about Terry McLaurin, when you talk about Dotson, when you talk about Samuels, if he stays healthy, and then, Cam Sims, he's a big one. I mean, you got a mixture of different people that you can utilize in this passing game. So it's no excuse, this season, why that passing game should not be way better than it was last year.
A lot of talk about offense. Well, Donna, you mentioned the coaches and this being the third season and everybody's on the hot seat. Well, you got the defensive coordinator who, of course, made headlines on social media, eventually deleted his Twitter account, of course. And Matt Corral leads a game-winning drive against this defense. Now, mind you, this is second, third stringers, but still, they missed a pivotal sack where they probably could have ended that game. That may not be on the coach, but again, he's on the hot seat for more than one reason. And I remember last year, we had somebody on the show, and they said 5 games into the regular season that we look like we playing a preseason defense. And I saw some of the same sentiments on Twitter, like this looks like the same old Jack Del Rio defense. What's your thoughts on the defense, and what do you want to see this coming week against Kansas City?
Well, it's funny when we talk about what has transpired on this defense. They get rid of the defensive line coach, Sam Mills. They had him last year. It's kind of strange that they waited so late into training camp and he's gone. To me, that has to still be addressed. as far as the defensive line coach? And are you comfortable with what they've got right now with the person that's, that has stepped in for Sam Mills as the defensive line coach? And it all starts to me up front. What I did not see and what I hope I'm seeing in this Kansas City game is more of a pass rush, because I think that was missing in that Carolina game. I don't even know where the pressure was. Must have been back in training camp, because it wasn't on that field at FedEx. So I'd like to see a little bit more in the Kansas City game of the pass rush. Now, when you look at all of this, they're going to have to be savvy as far as Coach DeRio, because Chase Young is not going to start the season and may be out for the first 3 games, but you don't know if it's going to be longer. So Smith Williams is going to fill in on that side. And they're going to have to me, scheme a lot different with Chase being gone. And even when he comes back, he's not going to be football ready as far as just stepping on the field and the Chase Young that can just explode. I mean, it's going to take time for that. I like to see better play a little bit more from the linebacker in the Kansas City game, because I think that's an area that they've got to get better. Jamison Davis, I got a chance to talk to him earlier in training camp, and he understands that he has to be better. And like he said, that this year is totally different from him. He won't be thinking so much, but just going out and react. And we saw some glimpse of that in the Carolina game, a little better play from him, but it's got to be a lot better. So what they do with that linebacker play is going to be crucial. I think the strength of that defense also, everybody talks about the defensive line, but they don't have the depth that they had last year, is the secondary, because when you really look at that secondary, they played well. And training camp doesn't tell me much until they get into the trenches against another team. But the secondary, St. Juice, he was, a little nicked up, hamstring. So, but he played in that new position that he's playing. He fits that so well. And if he can stay healthy, that he's going to make some noise back there. And all the Cam Curl and, in his new role, and Fuller and Jackson, William Jackson has played a lot better in training camp. So I like what I see in the secondary as far as their play. But I just think that the defensive front, everybody's talking about that, got to have a lot more pressure there, and it's got to be better play.
So, Donna, something you said struck a nerve, because I look at Coach Del Rio as somewhere in between the 2 Gregs. He's not Greg Minuski, and he ain't Greg Williams. Greg Williams would give that all-out blitz. Greg Minuski, you wouldn't see any blitzes. He's somewhere in the middle. But if you don't get that pressure up front, you're not helping your defensive backs.
I want, you know what? You hit it. I want the Greg Williams type of pressure that he comes at you. I mean, that's what you want. I mean, that's what you pretty much need, because when you look at these offensive teams and everybody is passing the ball downfield now. So if you don't get the pressure up front, as great as the secondary can be, they you put them out there and they can't even stop it, because you gave the quarterback on the opposite team too much time. So like I said, that I didn't see much blitzing to me enough last year. So he's got to be much better.
Well, he was mumbling to himself. What you think,
man? Greg coaching the XFL. Is it XFL yet? I think Greg's in the XFL right now. He won them leagues. I'm like, I'm giving that man a call. Like, I feel like Del Rio ain't. I think Del Rio more. I mean, in terms of like blitzing, I think Del Rio more similar to Minuski than he is. And I even think Minuski may have blitzed more than Del Rio, to be honest with you. Del Rio don't like blitzing. But I'm like, Greg, what I like about Greg, and I know we're going off topic, but golly, Greg had faith in his team. Greg was like, yo, you going to be in your position. I trust you to check your man. We're going to bring this blitz, so you better check your man. Like, Greg, he gave you that attitude of being a dog. Like, you felt confident because he believed in you, because he like, we gonna be pressured, and I trust the back end.
But Wally, but didn't he
gotta have that animal? He don't got that animal.
But Wally, didn't he have good linebacker play? Their linebackers were solid when he was here, as far as to be able to do that.
No one knew who Antonio Pierce was. Nobody knew who he was.
But guess what? he played well.
He did because Greg made him. Like, that's the thing. Greg made him. Greg instilled confidence in him. Antonio Pierce wasn't a middle linebacker. He was a dude that was playing special teams. Greg saw something in him and was like, you know what? I'm going to make you my middle linebacker. He put players, it was like that line had no freaking pass rushers for real. And he made them feel special. He had Wynn. Like, Wynn was getting sacks. Like, Greg made people feel like they were something better than they were. Like, that's my thing. Like, when you look at Del Rio, does anybody on that line feel like they're more special than they are? All these dudes, we talk about our first round picks. Jonathan Allen balls. Like, if Greg had Deron Allen,
but let me stop you right there, Wally.
And Jonathan Allen, them dudes would be way better because Greg would instill more confidence in them dudes.
But let me talk about them right now, because let me just say this. Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne played well in that Carolina game.
Yeah,
these are two guys that in practice I've been watching the line play a lot for the offense and the defensive line. And Jonathan Allen, I don't know. He must be Popeye the Cellar Man. What he's eating that spinach, and because his play has elevated from last year to this year, and then Deron Payne, the talk of him wanting the contract and they didn't give it to him, and he missed some of the OTAs, and he probably saying, "I'm gonna prove to you all this year that I deserve that." So their play has really been solid. Those two guys. To me, in that middle, is making some noise. And I'm telling you, Jonathan Allen just picked up, and his game has just elevated to another level. So so you definitely need to keep your eye on him. I mean, you could just tell the swagger in him right now in training camp as a leader. He's not, and John Allen is no nonsense, because every interview he looked like he's mad. Whether they win or whether they lose.
I love that brother. He's a leader on the team without having to say a whole lot. Just his demeanor, way he plays. Real quick, Donna, you've been at practice. You watch guys. One person that stood out on Twitter today in practice was Danny Johnson. In the game on Twitter was a whole nother discussion this past Saturday. He apparently had a one-handed interception or something, but. What's up with his play and just the DBs in general? Troy Apke's release, which isn't a surprise, but Landon Collins didn't bring him back, and he's still out there. So what's your thoughts just overall on the DBs? Like I said, they need help from the front.
No, I'm telling you, Danny Johnson, they like what they see in him because he's pretty consistent. I mean, his play, he's special team. Look at Wally saying, no,
he got torched, Don. He got torched.
No, but hey, if you don't have the pressure up front, everybody gonna get torched.
No, but he was getting torched early though, Don. It was some stuff that wasn't pressure related. I think that he got torched.
But when you look at it in practice, as far as the people that's getting the time with the starters, Danny Johnson is not that guy.
Gotcha.
So you got all the other guys that I mentioned before that have
St. Houston,
up new positions, and they're getting most of the play time in there. So against the first starters and everything, which is going to make they're going up against all the top guys. And I'm telling you, when I watched that secondary, the first 4 weeks of camp and everything, the coach was running up talking about, he's energetic anyway, but they were making some crucial plays.
You talking about Harris, right, Donna? You talking about Harris, right? Coach Harris.
Yeah. I love Harris. I mean, love his energy. Love how he coaches those guys. They love him to death too. But I think that just the way he's got them playing, two things that has changed that secondary is St. Jude's moving from the outside to the inside, and then Cam Curls, his roles and everything. And I think that Jackson is in his true position now. And then Kendall Fuller, to me, is in his true position. So you talked about Greg Williams putting the people in their right positions of their strengths. I think that that's what you've seen as far as the secondary. Now, the secondary can only be as good as the linebackers play, and also as far as the front. And last year, a lot of the times the linebackers were out of position, which affected the play of the secondary. This guy not know where this guy was going and whatever. Hopefully they'll work out all of those kinks. So I think that that's what you probably should watch in that Kansas City game is the linebacker play and how well that defensive line can get pressure on. Well, I don't know who's going to play because Kansas City may not play much of their guys, but Mahomes, I mean, this is a perfect measuring stick for this team moving into the second game of preseason. You only got one left against Baltimore. So you got to get a lot things right. And we know that on Wednesday is cut down day also. They got to get down to a certain number. So, a lot of these guys, and to me, it's the final cuts. It's going to be some key names that you're going to see on there. You'll be like, what? Whoa. Because certain positions are tight.
Definitely. You listen to All Burgundy and Go Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. We are chatting with Donna Hopkins from Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. All right, Donna. So for the first team offense and defense played most of the first quarter in the first game, and I didn't expect that, to be honest with you. So how much do you expect to see them in the game against Kansas City?
I think that you may see them a little bit more, but and I understand why they don't play them a lot, because you look at the Jets quarterback, he's hurt and is not going to start the season. So, but because this team is still trying to fill out a new quarterback, even Carson Wentz, even though he's been around, he's a new quarterback in this offense. So still got to get in tune a little bit more with the wide receivers. So to me, I think that you may see them for a full quarter, maybe the first quarter, maybe half of the second quarter, and that's it. But if their play is decent, as far as the offense, you may just see them for a quarter. And the third preseason game, you probably won't see them at all.
So also, Donna, what do you like in terms of comparing to the Panthers game? What do you want to see change in terms of performance? Like, what do you think this team needs to improve on?
I think the passing game, the quarterback play with the wide receivers, I just think that isn't smooth yet. And to me, I'm paying more attention to the offense. I think the defense, I'm paying attention to all of it, but really, this offense has to be able to help this defense a little bit more than they did last year. So, and they've got to be able to get off to quick starts. I mean, when you think about the Carolina game, they were down 20 to 6 until the fourth quarter. So you got to measure that game more so in the first part of the game when the starters were there, because that's what we're talking about right now.
And Taylor Heineke with the interception. That's okay.
Yeah, and Taylor Heineke, but he's not the starter. So I'm looking at the starting team. They were already down.
That's true.
So I like to see the play of the offense elevate a lot more in this Kansas City game. They've got to be a little more sharper, crisper. They've got to be a team that you like, oh yeah, I can see this offense team has really gotten better. So the offensive play overall, I think Robinson, like I said, had a solid first game, but I like to see the mixture of what Scott is going to do, Scott Turner, mixing up the running game with the passing game and what that is going to look like during the regular season. I like to kind of get a little measure of what we're going to see as far as with that combination, as far as the run pass game. And I just need to see a little more explosiveness in that passing game.
What about special teams? Because I feel like you missed the extra point.
Oh my gosh.
And then the kickoff return, punt and kickoff return wasn't special. So what about teams?
Yeah, that probably was one of the worst areas in that Carolina game is their special teams. And Washington for years had great special teams. And we know that in order for this team to be better this year, special teams has to be on point. I mean, the kicker misses the extra point, and y'all talk about Dustin Hopkins.
I know Hopkins. I know the Hopkins names.
Let me just say this. He's with the Chargers, and I was talking about him earlier in camp with Tressway, and he told me his stats from last year, Dustin Hopkins. I was like, you know what? Let nobody say nothing to me about Hopkins, because, this is the area that Washington struggled with also last year is special teams. And even when they got rid of Hopkins, that didn't get better per se a lot. So, I mean, when is the last time we had a true punt returner? DeAndre
Carter. They let him go.
Yeah, well, yeah. But really, when have we really had a solid punt returner since the Brian Mitchell era?
James Thresh.
I mean, no, Brian's an all-time great, so it's hard. But I think DeAndre Carter was really, really good.
And how long ago was that?
That was last year, and they just let him go.
But you know what?
That bothers me.
But I got it. But he's not what you say. He wasn't like super great punt.
But he was really good. He had he took a couple to the house. Like he had close some to the house. Like he was.
You said
good.
a couple. You said a couple.
That's how long in today's game where you kick the ball out of the end zone? Like this.
How long is the season?
Donna, he was good, Donna. Like he was.
I need a solid.
Arguably, he was a Pro Bowl caliber returner. Like this, and then you let him go for who?
Hey, Ray, help me out right here. Ray, come on.
I guess the measuring stick isn't too high though. That's what he's trying to say. So
yeah,
why are you gonna let him go when you don't have anything else?
You don't got nobody else. Like you let him
and
go.
You going to the legendary Brian Mitchell is just
Donna. I'll be honest with you for real. Like you got good. Like all right. So I watched this kid play in college. I watched him play. One, like Dotson is a great returner, but he's going to be like one of your premier wide receivers. So you don't want to have him out there returning.
They had him catching punts in practice and everything.
Yeah, he can do it. And I'm going to tell you who's more dynamic than him, to be honest with you. Like, because I watched him at Ohio State. He get hurt all the time, though. Curtis Samuel is a dog as a returner. Like a special
Well, you just mentioned two players that's not going to be back there.
Exactly. That's my point. You're not going to use them, but you're going to use Dax Mills Dax and Erickson. Like, what is this?
Was Brandon Banks a punt returner or he's just a kick returner?
Both, bro.
And not only that,
she asked who the last good one was.
Huh?
Yeah. The reason why this is so important because of field position.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And if you don't have a solid return man that can get you decent field position, then you're going to always be behind the 8 ball trying to get down the field. Yeah, and that's what hurt them in the last 3 years or so is that punt returner giving them good field position to start off drives and everything. Yeah. And to me, they have not got the answer yet for who's going to be back there, who's going to be solid back there. So that's going to, to me, that's scary when you talk about the special teams, not just the punt returners, but as far as the kicker, the only bright point of special teams is Tressway.
I agree. I feel like when you don't have, like, this is my thing about kickoff returners and punt returners. If you don't got like an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, like the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, like the elite Russell Wilson, like even the young Patrick Mahomes, the young killers, Justin Herbert, dudes like Lamar Jackson, dudes like, if you don't got dudes like that, you need returners who can give you good field position, because those dudes, they can give you big plays to kind of play around with it. But if you don't got guys like that, like the jury is still out on Carson Wentz of how much he can help your ball club in terms of moving the ball up and down the field, right? We could say he's better than what this team has had in the past, but the jury's still out on terms of what he can do as that dude. You know what I'm saying? This team isn't, like, folks are saying that he's not the same dude in Philadelphia, right? He's not the same dude of that dude that could have been an MVP that season. But so, like, if the jury's still out on that, like, you want a guy that can kind of flip the field for you, a guy that terrorizes a punter, like, or a kick or on a kickoff, a kick on a kickoff. Like, you want a guy to put fear in there. And if you don't have that, and this team don't have nobody that they're willing to put out there, like in terms of kickoff and punt returns, they have nobody that puts fear.
They're trying to. You need to have all the moving pieces together, to make this work. Because, like you said, Carson Wentz, you don't want to put so much pressure on him.
Exactly.
As far as in a game, you want that special teams. What they say, 3 faces of this team. Every part of this team has to be able to do a great job.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. I feel like, I'm hoping, man. Like, B. Mitch, they come through these doors, though. I like B. Mitch is great. Like, he was amazing. Like, this team,
I think Brian could go back out there and still run. I mean,
you know what? Like, people mention Brian Mitchell all the time. I'm like, Brian Mitchell is different, though. Like, what I mean by that is Brian Mitchell 9 times out of 10 gave you positive field positions almost all the darn time. Like, you don't have returners like that in general. Like, I feel like this team, it's unfortunate for Brian, to be honest with you, here in DC. Like, when he was really owning it as a kickoff returner, it's unfortunate that, like, he was on bad teams. Like, if he was on good teams, the way he really like when he hit his prime as a returner, like he would have been the ultimate weapon for any offense.
Yeah.
Right. So
Brett
you like you
Williams,
want to say
Brian
something,
Mitchell,
right?
you in the past. We got to live in the present. This is the Commanders. Let
I
it
know.
go, brother. Let it
Let
go.
it go.
This was a
Let
therapy
it
session for
go.
you,
I know. I
and
need to
I
let it
appreciate
go.
that. But you got to let the past go. We got to move forward what we got,
True. Hey,
what
hey,
y'all got.
I know. True. That.
But you know what? When you look at the teams across the NFL that tips the scale, that the Kansas Cities that Washington plays this coming week, they've always had solid return men. And that to me tipped the scale because they always had great field position. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes anyway, but he didn't have, I mean, he started off in good field position always almost. So when you look at the teams that were even in the playoffs last year, those guys had great special teams units and everything. So we're talking about the return people for the kickoffs and the punts, but even the coverage team has to be great. So we're looking at all parts of special teams that's not working. And you talked about what am I looking for in the Kansas City game? Yeah. Well, special teams is one area that we got to be paying attention to. Will they improve from the Carolina game? Because that was like debacle. And what we saw in that game. And I think Coach Rivera talked about that a little bit, that the special teams has to get better to be able to give them good field position, in games and everything, which is so crucial for this team with so many uncertain unknowns right now.
Now, before I let you go, I do want to ask you just one question before I let you go. So for the fans out there who saw that the Panthers game, and they're like, you know what? It's the same old. Like, what do you say to them? Because again, what you're talking about, special teams was bad. That was bad. That wasn't great last year. We're talking about defense. They weren't getting, like, they didn't live up to the hype. Giving up third down, still converting. Offense still converting on third downs. The running back fumbles again. Like, all this is the same thing that we saw last season. So for fans out there looking at it,
we did see some good things. If I was going to tell the fans, I would be saying, hold your horses. And it's hard for me to say that. Hold your horses because it was just preseason. And I mean, preseason doesn't count. They haven't opened up their offensive book of what we're going to see. Defense, the same thing. And I know that, it's hard to say that, hey, we seen all these things. I mean, a fumble is a fumble. You can't take that back. But we did see brightness with Brian Robinson. So you can take away with saying, man, we got a back right there. So I would just say, hold your horses, which I told you that I don't assess training camp a lot because I can't tell anything because they're going against each other. Exactly. You got a defense that was just controlling, pushing the offense around. Defensive backs were, their coverage was great. Carolina game against another opponent tells you a little bit more, but until the realness comes, the first game of the season against Jacksonville, that's when you measure this team as far as what you see. That's when you can talk about fans about if this is the same old, but right now I'm just saying, put in your brakes a little bit and let's wait until that first game and assess them when that first game comes.
Totally agree, Don. I totally agree. Hey, Don, before we let you go, how can folks catch you on social media?
Just put in Donna J. Hopkins,
I know,
Twitter.
Right here. I got you.
I've been even tweeting a lot, Wally, a little bit more.
Look, Donnie, I'm so proud of you, Donna. I'm so proud of you.
I know I want y'all to know, Wally got on me and he said, girl, get out there and tweet. Let the people know what's going on and everything. So, and it's important for me to put good contents out there that, that matters. And a lot of times people just be putting anything out. I want to only talk on Twitter when I have something to say. They can catch me on Instagram as far as Facebook. And then, even more so, I tell people to go to subscribe to our YouTube channel In the Minute and catch a lot of things because we're going to have a lot of good fun things happening during the course of the season covering this Washington Commanders team. So catch there, and there you got it. Just
Hey,
plug in my name.
awesome. Hey, Don, so what kind of content you have out there? Like, what are some of the interviews? And give us an example.
Had some great ones with Dotson, the first year wide receiver, Jalen Dotson. He was great. I mean, I try to talk to players more so from not just football in, but who are they as individuals? And then Jamin Davis was a great interview because he was truthful as far as where he's at and where he wants to go, and just a little bit about him as far as an individual. And then, Tressway is always fun to talk to. And then Brian Robinson Jr. It's amazing that I had him, and then he had a great game. I don't know if I had anything to do with that, but
you blessed him.
I coached him up. But no, he's got Randy Jordan is a great running back coach. And I watched him out at training camp, and he's got those guys on point. And they love him.
Awesome. Hey, Donna's awesome. Hey,
and then I'm trying to get Terry. So I'm trying to work on a little special one before camp ends on the 18th, August the 18th this week. So I'm hoping to get a few more surprises in there.
So get them all in.
In the minute, gotta subscribe.
I know, I've been trying to get Terry, but Terry's the man that everybody's grabbing for him and everything. I got a chance to talk to him a little bit after the Carolina game, just chatted with him. If you get to know Terry, this guy is class act all the way around, from how he answers his questions, how he carries himself, and just his demeanor on the field. You're seeing a new Terry McLaurin as far as just in that leadership role even more so, because when you think about Terry from the first year to right now, you're just seeing him evolve as a player and even as a person. I think he was a great person anyway, but now his play on the field is elevating more. And I know a lot of pressure is going to be on him this year because of that big contract. When people get big contract, Dave's like, well, you better play like that big contract. But the only way that he can play great is you got great quarterback play.
This is true, man. Terry got the bag. I'm gonna give him my fantasy football team because I believe in Terry. I do. I believe in that dude, man. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Errrything. Also, tweet us at ABG_Errrything and hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything. And like our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything YouTube channel as well. Hit the subscribe button. Also, like a bunch of our videos. It works with the algorithm, man. Just work with us, man. Work with us. Hey, we appreciate having Donna on. Donna is awesome as always. Anyway,
it's always great with you guys.
Oh, Donna's
always fun.
Always a pleasure, Donna. Always a pleasure. You've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, for ages. You dig? Deuces, a mega. Lead us out, big homie. Swag.